So we are here in Tuscany at the launch of this, the Skoda Enyaq Coupe. Now, whether you believe this is a coupe or not is probably down to a bit of personal taste, but Skoda has made the back end of the car sleeker and lower. It looks longer because they've painted in the sills down here that are normally a dark plastic finish. It's still pretty practical. There's still a 570 litre boot back here under the electric hatch, and you do get some new bits and pieces as well. All Enyaq Coupes will come with this big panoramic glass roof. Again, that might be down to a matter of taste. Some of you might prefer a solid roof. I'm going to leave that up to you. There is still very decent space back here. This is an optioned up one. You can ignore the storage boxes and coat hangers and things like that. The roofline does cut down your headroom a little bit, but generally speaking, fully grown adults will still fit back there quite comfortably. Here in the front, it's much the same as the standard Enyaq. You get the big screen, you get the nice little instrument digital panel there. It is a bit more aerodynamic. It is slightly more efficient through the air than the standard taller Enyaq, so you do get a tiny bit more range. If you go for the rear-wheel drive 204 horsepower model with the 77 kilowatt hour battery, which most customers will do, you'll get an extra 10 to 15 kilometers of range on the WLTP test. That's not a huge amount maybe, but might make the difference for some people. There is also going to be an RS version. We'll be looking at that a bit more tomorrow. That comes with 299 horsepower, an extra electric motor and four-wheel drive, much the same as the sister Volkswagen ID.4 GTX. Whether that will be truly sporty enough to genuinely wear that RS badge, well, that remains to be seen. What also remains to be seen is Irish pricing. We don't have Irish prices yet for the coupe. It will be a little bit more expensive than the standard Enyaq. So it comes down to this decision. Do you pay a little bit extra for less roof and a little bit less headroom and a little bit less boot space, but arguably more style? Personally, I think the whole thing would look an awful lot better if you cut out about 6 inches of height and turned it into a proper saloon. I don't know why people persist in making coupes out of SUVs, but it seems to be what the market wants. There is one option on the Enyaq that I particularly like, and I'm not sure if like is really the right word, because it kind of sits on a scale of tackiness that starts with 0 and ends up with Swarovski crystals, but you can optionally have the grille, this is just the plain one, backlit with LED, so it lights up at night. Apparently 40% of European Enyaq buyers are going for that option. As I say, I can't really decide whether that's really kind of cool or really awfully tacky. Again, leave that up to you. So as you can see from the little flash of green paint here, which is exclusive to this model, this is the RS version of Skoda's Enyaq Coupe. This is the sporty one. This gets an extra electric motor up front, four-wheel drive, 299 horsepower, and it'll accelerate from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 6.5 seconds, which is around about 2 seconds faster than the standard rear-wheel drive 204 horsepower version of this car. Now, clearly it's been set up to be properly sporty, and you can see that as soon as you sit in. You've got these beautiful high-back bucket seats with the RS logo stitched into the headrest. You've got swathes of fake man-made Alcantara suede everywhere, which looks fantastic. I mean, the Enyaq already had a pretty good cabin, but the RS additions like the lime green contrast stitching really lift it. It is really gorgeous in here. So comfortable as well, and still pretty roomy. Yes, the lower roofline cuts into headroom in the back a bit, but the big glass roof, which comes as standard, helps to keep things airy. You can see out of it reasonably well. Actually, all-round visibility is not bad for a car with such a fast rate rear end, even if the rear screen is a little bit flat and a little bit shallow when you look in the mirror. How does it drive, though? That is the crucial question. Now, it's a bit of a mixed bag, I have to say. There are good points and bad points. The good points are that with 299 horsepower and copious amounts of torque, it does accelerate very briskly. Now, never as quick as you think it's going to accelerate, because it is a very heavy car. I mean, this is knocking on for 2.7 tons when you put me in it anyway. So no matter how much the 299 horsepower might try, it can't overcome the rules of physics. So there is an initial strong burst of acceleration, but one that tails off very quickly once you get rolling. There's always a reserve to call on. I mean, this car can make very good time across country, because you can keep adding on little bursts of extra speed whenever you feel like it, and there's so much traction, you can always put the power down. You know, unless you're on an incredibly slippery surface, You'll never even see a flicker of the traction control light, I would think. It's so good at putting its power to the ground. Is it sporty though? Kind of. There is good responsiveness to the steering, particularly as you turn into a quick corner. The nose tucks in very quickly indeed. But the problem is, again, the weight comes into play and you can feel the car dragging itself to the outside of the corner. The understeer starts to build up and you can feel it's almost trying to peel the tread off the tyres as it goes around the corner. It struggles manfully to control that weight, but it can't quite. And so it never feels as agile and as flickable and as fun as a car wearing the RS badge really ought to. Yes, it's more enjoyable and more engaging than the standard Enyaq and the standard Enyaq Coupe, but it falls short of rival models like the Ford Mustang Mach-E, and to be honest, like Toyota's incoming BZ4X, which thanks to being lighter, although not as overtly sporting, is actually a bit more fun to chuck around on a twisting road. Now, the thing is, though, it is about image, isn't it? Because you do get this gorgeous green paintwork. I know not many people will really go for it at home, and to be honest, they'd probably be right not to, because it's a bit like adding a target to your back and waving your hands in front of every Garda speed trap in the country. You do get the illuminated grille as standard. You get lower, stiffer sport suspension, which comes to it's actually the same lower, stiffer suspension as you get on the standard version of the Enyaq Coupe. It's 10 millimeters lower at the front, 15 millimeters lower at the rear than the standard tall Enyaq, that is. It is a bit stiffer, and on the 21-inch wheels, you will notice that some of the ride quality, some of that brilliant glidey smoothness that you get with the standard Enyaq has gone away a bit, but it's actually not that bad. If you adjust the electronic dampers into comfort, it's actually still very, very comfortable. The whole car is hugely refined. You can feel the incredible levels of build quality that go into this thing, and the structure is so stiff. Every surface in here is really well made and put together. Nothing looks or feels cheap. So you can certainly see where your money's gone. It might be worth it, to be honest, because I have to say it is a delightful car to drive. It doesn't have that overt sportiness that you get with, say, an Octavia RS, but I'm not sure if that matters. I mean, it should matter, shouldn't it? Because it is an RS, but at the same time, you know, I've been driving along thinking, well, you know, it's not really a sports car and it's a bit heavy and it's not all that much fun in the corners, although it's pretty good. And then you drive past a petrol station and they're charging €2 a litre, and you start to think, well, maybe that's a good trade-off then, isn't it? Not quite as sporty as you might want, but you can plug it in and charge it up and it'll go for around about 500 kilometers, claims Skoda, even with the extra motor. I reckon it's probably more like about 420 kilometers with a full battery on a reasonably mild, warm day like today. In the cold, in the dead of winter, you're probably looking at more like 350 as a reasonable maximum figure. Still enough, probably, as long as you can charge at home. But as ever, you're going to be left at the mercy of the still far too sparse network of rapid chargers. Nonetheless, that's not Skoda's problem. Actually, Skoda's problem will be making enough of these because production is still being interrupted. They've kind of got over the worst of the chip crisis, but then Russia's war on Ukraine hit and they get supplies for these cars, they get parts for these cars from Ukraine, and obviously that's all interrupted and held up now, so we don't really know what the timeline for deliveries of these cars are going to be. It is really lovely. It's a very charming machine. It's mostly good looking. I'm not a big fan of coupe SUVs in general, but I mean, as far as those things go, this one is a pretty good looking one. Although from dead astern, looking at it straight on at the back, it looks a bit tall and pinched and narrow at the top. It looks much, much nicer from other angles, I have to say. And I would love to spend all of my driving days in this interior because it is just that lovely, terrific infotainment screen as well. It's much, much better than the equivalent Volkswagen screen as it happens. I'm not sure it's going to be worth the money that they're going to ask for it, and I'm not sure that it's sporty enough to be a true Skoda RS, but it is pretty good fun, reasonably efficient, certainly brisk enough for most purposes, and in this green paintwork, really rather delectable. So yeah, I think Skoda might be on to another winner here.